If you're in the market for a new family car, then you're probably feeling the pressure from peers and friends alike to step into an SUV. But despite their popularity, there's still plenty of compelling alternatives that manage to be both sporty and utility-y. This is the new Mazda 6, and as part of a 2023 update, it still has plenty of family-friendly features.
Chasing cars, honest reviews of your next car. Brought to you by
Budget Direct.
Believe it or not, Mazda 6 has been around for 20 years, and to mark the occasion it's created this, the 20th anniversary edition, and it gets a number of enhancements. First of all, this high gloss silver grille at the front. You've got high gloss 19-inch alloy wheels, and it's available in two different colours, rhodium white and this very nice artisan red. And you also get 20th anniversary badges. Despite this car's 20th anniversary enhancements, it gets plenty of the features that the entire Mazda 6 wagon range gets, including a large, generous and comfortable second row of seating. And at the back, as it's a wagon, I've got 506 litres of space in there. Fold the rear seats and I get about 1900 litres of space. But most importantly, all of that volume is down here where it really counts. SUVs, you get a lot of space up in the rafters where it doesn't really make much difference. The entry point of the range is looked after by a choice of G25 wagon or sedan in sport or touring. Powered by a 2.5 litre non-turbo petrol with 140 kilowatts and 252 newton meters. Prices start at $35,540 for the sport sedan and top out at $41,510 for the touring wagon. Move up to the G35 GT SP, however, and Mazda will include a 2.5 litre turbo petrol, which ups the power to 173 kilowatts and 420 newton meters. Prices start at $48,440 for the sedan and $49,740 for the wagon. Above that, there's the Atenza, which costs $51,840 or $53,140 for the wagon, and it used to represent the top of the Mazda 6 range. On the inside, there are more special treatments as well, including this lovely combination of Nappa leather and Maztex synthetic suede, which is on the dashboard and on the centre sections of the seats. The seats have been revised, they're a little bit more supportive, and I've also got embossed 20th anniversary icons on the headrests. Also, there's this wood grain kind of look trim for the dash, but beyond that, this car is pretty much identical to the rest of the Atenza variants. I've got a 7-inch driver instrument cluster here, fully digital, and I've also got a digital central display, but it's 8 inches, and by today's standards, that's looking just a little bit small. Other things new for the update include wireless charging for devices, and also Apple CarPlay you can connect wirelessly, whereas Android Auto is included, but you'll need a cable. Other than that though, the interior ambience is very luxury and very pleasant place to be. So at the pointy end of the spectrum, the Mazda 6 wagon manages to be a pretty compelling proposition, especially if you go for the special 20th anniversary edition. But there are a couple of things that it doesn't offer that an SUV might. For example, whether you go for the 2.5 litre naturally aspirated petrol, which is the entry-level versions, or this, the 2.5 litre turbocharged petrol, they all send power through the front wheel, so there's no all-wheel drive option like an SUV might. Because it's front-wheel drive, it maxes out its towing rating at 1,600 kilos, so there are SUVs that can do a lot better than that. Also, you don't get the ground clearance of an SUV, but let's ask ourselves an honest question. Are you really ever going to take that SUV off-road? If not, the proportions and the dynamics of this car make much more sense. With the update, this car now gets G-vectoring, which is Mazda's clever chassis control system, which again boosts this car's appeal and dynamics on road. They've also sharpened the steering system, and there's a whopping 3 kilowatts extra from the 2.5 litre turbocharged petrol. That takes power to 173 kilowatts. Most importantly though, it has 420 newton meters of torque, and that's been repositioned slightly lower down the rev range with the 2023 update. All of this combines for a car that is far nicer to drive on road than many SUVs. Interestingly, the wagon is the choice out of the sedan Mazda 6 and the wagon, because it actually has a slightly shorter wheelbase compared with the sedan, and it's shorter overall, which means in tighter corners it has a tendency to turn in more eagerly. I'm very happy to say that the ride quality is not impacted. It's still actually very nice on some of these country roads. A few imperfections and damage like that doesn't faze the Mazda 6 wagon at all. And then there's that engine. 2.5 litres of turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol. 173 kilowatts in a car like this is actually pretty respectable, especially coupled with that big torque figure. Acceleration is really respectable. This car's starting to feel much sportier than Mazda really talks about. Through some of the tighter corners, its turn-in isn't quite as sharp as some of the more sports-focused rivals you might be able to pick from. But certainly it's got enough performance and dynamic capability to hold its own. The engine's bolted to a 6-speed automatic transmission, which by today's standards is seeming like not particularly many gears, especially when you compare it with like 10-speed gearboxes, which is where autos have got to these days. But the combination is really good. I've also got paddle shifters here, and I get a sport mode, which adds a little bit more weight to the steering, sharpens the throttle even more, and keeps the revs a little bit higher with lower gears. So practically, the Mazda 6 wagon has a lot of features that can do battle against an SUV. Yes, it has to be said there are a few, which means it can't. But for the person who wants a good combination of practicality and also on-road dynamics, and are unlikely to take this car anywhere off-road much of the time, this car makes a lot of sense. But for me, it's really missing an opportunity. With tons of power under that really likeable 2.5-litre turbocharged petrol engine, dynamics that have got even better, this car is competing with a car I really like, the Skoda Octavia RS wagon. It has a similar amount of power, similar amount of performance. The chassis might not be quite as sharp, but this car has shaped up to be something of a sports hero that I simply wasn't expecting.